On today's episode of Chronicles of a Nigerian Woman, I'll be reading Alara's story. I had heard of things like this, but I never thought it could be my story. Not in a million years. I would never have believed it still happened. Not in this era. I am the first of 3 daughters my parents had. My parents are traditional people and placed a lot of emphasis on grooming us domestically. My mother was a secondary school literature teacher, and my father was a civil servant and a pastor in a Pentecostal church with a few branches. He was the head pastor of one of the branches while we were growing up. My sisters and I all studied education at the university because my father believed that was the most appropriate profession for an educated woman. He believed strongly in women being educated to university level, but not in professional courses that would put them in office jobs because, in his opinion, those jobs were too exposing. Teaching, to him, offered a woman the opportunity to use her knowledge and her intellect to do decent work that would help her earn a living while complementing her duties at home. Being a firstborn, I bore the responsibility of setting an example for my sisters. So I learned from a young age to do as I was told and not to question things too much. I had dreams, but I learned to keep them to myself. I never even shared them with my sisters for fear that doing so would place rebellious ideas in their head. My younger sisters both got married before me. In fact, they were already in relationships by the time they finished university. I was 2 and 3 years older than them respectively, and I had never had a boyfriend. It was somewhat my fault because even though I was a church girl, I was not interested in marrying any of the boys from my church. They were not bad people, but I did not like them that way because they did not represent the kind of exposure I dreamt about. Therefore, I did not put myself in a position for any of the boys in our family church to speak to me. However, I guess I looked too conservative to attract the kind of boys I dreamt about, and I was not much of an outgoing person, so there were not many places to meet those kind of people. I just wanted to break free from the mold I had grown up in, and I dreamt about it, but in reality, I was unable to develop the persona or the courage to do it. And so, I continued with the life my parents made for me. My sisters got married at 23 and 24. When my youngest sister got married and I was still unmarried and living at home with my parents, they began to get anxious. When I turned 30, their worry intensified. People began to talk at church. And in fact, I became an issue among the pastors, and my father was getting embarrassed about it. I was 32 when one of the pastors lost his wife. He was senior to my dad in the church hierarchy, and my parents respected him a lot. The woman had been dead for 6 months when my mother called me into her room one night and told me that he had asked for me to be his wife, and my father had accepted. Inside me, I was screaming with rage, but on the outside, I had no logical argument to tender, so I agreed. I was chubby and a bit awkward, and no other man was showing any interest, so who was I to refuse anyway? The man was 57, a year older than my father. His 4 children had left home, and his firstborn was older than me. Apparently, the superintending apostle had requested that the man remarry a younger woman in order to continue his role as pastor. and the suggestion was that he find a young unmarried lady to avoid complications. My name had come up and I was seen as the best option, and that was what led to the discussion with my dad. I hated the thought of marrying a man older than my father. I dreamed of marrying for love, of finding someone who would free me from the drudgery of the conservative life I had always lived. I wanted something different. No young lady I knew married a man twice her age. I thought it was something that happened in villages or in the times of my grandparents. But here I was in that exact place. I guess I never had the courage to break free. I waited for freedom to happen, but it never did. I never put up a fight or an argument. I did as I was told and made my parents happy by marrying the man. I have now been married to him for 15 years. He's not a wicked or mean man, but he is more like a father than what I imagined a husband to be. Our relationship is based more on duty than affection. We don't really have much to say to each other beyond our obligations. I play my role as a dutiful wife, and he does everything he should do in terms of financial responsibility and other duties. I know very little of what goes on in his mind. We have 2 children together, and I concentrate on raising them and performing my duties as a pastor's wife. I am not resentful or bitter, but I sometimes imagine how things would have been if they were different. Although I don't let myself dwell too long on those thoughts. I guess I will never know what true happiness is. But then again, what if there is no happier alternative, and what I have imagined to be happiness is merely based on some people's interpretation of what it is? What are your thoughts about Alara's story? Please share in the comments below. Remember to like this video, to share with someone who will find it useful, and definitely remember to subscribe to my channel. Would you like to join a thriving community of women where we carry out activities to help one another grow and thrive as women? Click the link in the description below to join the Valiant Women's Network. Till I come your way again, ciao!